I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Income Jack. Yeah.
He's about zeroing. He is zeroing.
5 seconds early, but very upset.
All right.
Well, I have 9 o'clock exactly. He's zeroing. That was very rude.
I was gonna start at 8:59, but yeah, I gave you an extra minute. That's it. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the agenda for today's meeting, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. As usual, I'm asking for a volunteer to take notes. Whose turn is it today? Hey, Frank, you?
Probably my turn.
Okay, thank you, Frank. All right, Frank is recording the minutes for this meeting. Thanks very much. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the June 25th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none,
How
I'll
you
call.
doing? Good luck.
Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from the June 25th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries and minutes are approved. One item to mention, Bob Hillegas is got an excused absence today, but he did send me a set of questions that we're going to ask that are coming out of this meeting. So he's already done his review of the June financials and has a number of questions and everything. Next item on the agenda is public comments. There's no one here in the room. Anybody online? Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comments, move into the next item on the agenda, and that is a review and discussion of the June 2025 financials. We do every month. We can go through it page by page, bring up any discussion points, and let's move on. The first page, obviously, positive variance for June of 107K. Revenues were over by 9 and expenses were under by 97. That's pretty interesting. Any questions on page 1? Okay, next item on the agenda, I'm sorry, next page is the operating account summary. Any thoughts on that page? I have one, if you'll note, on the revenue side under amenities, all of the net revenues, it's down 28K from budget. I don't know that that's any issue, just noted. But if you notice, the line other fees and income is up by 54K. So how they categorize those other other revenues, again, not an issue, just that again, total revenues were up certainly 58 for the month. And overall, year to date, we're 126K favorable to budget. Any questions on page 2? Okay, next item, operating results.
Continue behind. Surprised on beach parking.
Maybe that's
On prime time.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting. Those are the 2 notes I had, obviously. Racket Sports was down 5,700 from budget, and the beach parking 62 from unfavorable to budget. Again, for those watching in, they're not uber financial folks. It's not a loss. It's a comparison to the same time last year. And again, 62 was variance to budget, not a loss. Right? Any other questions on the operating results? page. Okay, moving on to the next page. Net ops by department. Anybody? Okay, well, I got a couple. I always have a few. If you look, the beach parking, is down, 13K year to date for this fiscal year, compared to budget. But it's 30K better than last year to date. I mean, look at those numbers. They're extremely interesting. In the sense that
Early collection.
it could, yeah, good point, Jack. It could be early collection. I don't know. Maybe people are waiting a little bit for.
We're looking at 1 month
Yeah,
productivity,
Yeah,
right?
right. But that's why I added, if someone was scrutinizing a report and they looked at it and said, well, we're down 13,000 from where we were last year. Well, yeah, but we're 30,000 better year to date, We have 13,000 for the month, but 30,000 better for the year. So apparently, one could argue that a lot of fees were collected in the first month. And we're perhaps budgeting, they spread it across a 12-month,
Well,
or a 6-month period.
If you look at the numbers, they sell something like, I don't know, 2,700 parking spaces or 2,400. How many are over there? 250? Something like that. I mean,
I think with
it's really amazing how they handle this. I think, and what it does is you gotta oversell it because not everybody's gonna use that parking space, any length of time. They may use it once or twice a summer. So it's a good, I think they do a good job of the way they do. That always fascinated me,
Yeah,
how they handle that.
I agree. Another one on racket sports, my note here is that there's only 8K variance from last year. If you look at net ops by department, only down 8K from where we were last year to date. Okay, again, things are fluid as you go through the fiscal year. So, again, just an observation, not an issue, not a concern at this point, but just an observation. I know a lot of people are looking at the racket sports numbers and really kind of scrutinizing them, and whether or not that leads to any changes going forward, well, that remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, one of our responsibilities is just keep track of this to say, is it really, what effect has the new pricing structure had? And then, operationally, the GM will give us more guidance and try to understand. Don? Hey, Don Bonafide, do you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I've asked about that is how long do you wait to ask that question? It's long.
Well, traditionally, there's a 6-month forecast done. I mean, in the business world, we're looking at saying, okay, we're 6 months into our fiscal year. How are we doing against budget? And do we need to make any adjustments, transfer funds from, one operational area to another? So, again, I would just, look to the GM for guidance on that. What does he think we ought to look at? Because again, we're just asking a question saying, where are we going to be with this? And, are there any potential actions that come out of any analysis that's done by both us and his as the operational lead? So, it's again, something to ask the GM and we'll just say, maybe 6 months is a good timeline.
Way down.
And then the only other note I had on the net ops by department was that CPI, Rec and Parks and Marinas are all doing better year to date than last year at this time. Just don't know if that's due to any particular operational changes or whether our population has changed. I mean, I don't know, but it's certainly noticeable. Any other questions on the net operating by department? Okay. If you look at the next page, the operating summary, one of the things that stood out to me was there were $97,000 less, less expense, which is less than what they had in the budget. So in other words, we're 97,000 favorable to budget, for this month. And the question is that something we didn't do, something that got pushed off and reprioritized and is gonna be done at a later date and so on and so forth. So again, it's not a concern, not an issue, but it's something that, you know, I'd be curious to see where we are.
Who
in
pays
4 months.
for the, employees of the food service? Who pays their salary?
TOI, touch middle.
Okay.
No,
It's 70,000 at 97.
it's wages, yeah, yeah. And, you know, I don't, well, I mean, I don't know of any significant changes in, you know, in Ocean Pine staffing and, you know, we wouldn't be notified anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, you know, a lot of that could be attributed to, you know, maybe at some point they thought that they might need to have that money there and put it in the budget and it wasn't a big effect on the assessment dollars. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. That's another one we'll kind of track over the next several months and see where that ends up. Maybe at the 6-month time frame, we'll take another look at it, put a little marker in our notes and say, hey, it's 6 months, let's go look at those wages and benefits again. You know, because the year-to-date numbers really tell the story. Any other questions on the revenue side of the operating summary page? All right, moving forward to the next item, which is individual departments, racket sports. And the
Classes and clinics. Significant variance from. Right.
yeah, that is way down. Yeah. And if you look and you compare it, it's about $2,600, you know, unfavorable between, you know, the year date now and year to date last year. So, and that's a huge sum, yeah. Maybe not, just all depends on the grand scheme of things. But one of the things I noticed on there is that if you look at the top line member dues, you know, and if you look at the year-to-date actuals is 127.5, and year-to-date actuals from last year was 128.4. So we're talking less than $1,000 difference in members' dues. You know, so, you know, is that telling us a story? Don't know, but it's something that we'll just, you know, want to follow. And if that gap gets bigger and bigger as we go through the, you know, rest of the fiscal year, it might be a, you know, a telltale sign. But other than that, right now, I don't think there's really a whole lot of difference, $1,000 for, you know, against 127.
What would that be? Is that like a family rate? Maybe some family didn't sign up?
I think if you look down at the last page in the
Yeah.
report where it says memberships, that'll tell you exactly what the breakdown is. But, you know,
That's a good, yeah. That's a good,
yeah. Me personally, I tend to look at the bigger numbers and only drill down into the details when you see some anomaly or you might have a general question about something.
Okay,
So,
good heads up.
all right. Anything else on racket sports? All right, moving on into aquatics. Any questions there? Okay, I got one, just again, I'm very big into trend analysis, so, the net op is 20K better than it was last year. You know, is that, you know, again, just an observation?
They have switched from racket sports to aquatics, you know, that could be that one that they lost. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I
What you're
apologize.
saying is,
I apologize. I
what
really.
you're saying is instead of playing tennis, I went swimming.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, it could be legitimate with the weather we've had lately. No, aquatics, no real concerns there. It's humming along and, Case, I had to ask a question and I should know the answer. Somebody said that, the yacht club pool is allowed to stay open until 7 o'clock now.
Well, we were there, we saw you there for dinner. Heck was that? Over the weekend, was it? And yeah, there were still people in that pool. And we left there
Just-
past 6.
Yeah, just curious to see if, you know, they're gonna have 1 more hour worth of labor costs. But then again, it could be offset by the number of folks that, you know, decide that at, say, at 5 o'clock after they get off work, they're gonna come in and they're gonna stay because they know they can stay for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, more bang for the buck, if you will. And no, just curious more than anything else.
Comment, the services and supply double. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw that, and one of the things that came to mind was, there's a supplies like, in other words, they'll run out of inventory and then they'll have to do something, or they might have to do a special treatment or something along those lines where it's a one-time cost and it shows up rather, and, when over the years, if you look at the budget, they tend to spread things out over 12 months. They don't, because, nobody wants to say, I'm gonna have this expense in July, but you can't get the goods until September, so then it throws it's better to, have it sort of even across the entire operating year. But yeah, it could have been something that, they needed as far as, maintenance of the pools and so on and so, well, not maintenance, but, services, supplies, chlorine, whatever it is that they do, with the pools. But again, overall, they're in good shape. Anything else on aquatics? All right, next item is combined golf operations. Coming along like it has been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, turnaround is significant. He's doing a great job over there. I really think so.
Yeah, I mean, look at the member dues number there. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, what this is where I get a little bit, I don't want to use the word confused, but I question, but the green speeds is 13K, loss against the budget, 13K, negative 13K variance. If you look at green speeds for the month,
Well, you play it. Well, you haven't played a lot.
Yeah,
And I haven't,
Yeah.
Well, you know how much rain it was.
Yeah.
And there are guys that I play with that will not play part path only. Can't.
oh, really?
Yeah, they just won't show
Well, I
up.
play 3 times a week.
Huh?
I play 3 times a week, so.
Well, I'm talking about your shoulder.
Oh,
You
yeah, I
got
was
a
out.
bad shoulder, and I didn't know when you were picking up.
No, it's gotten to the point where I
No,
cannot
I-
blame a bad shot on my shoulder anymore. It's healed. It's all
Good.
healed.
Well, that's excellent. Good. So I think weather.
Yeah,
County Weather did play work there, and our last advisory meeting was off the 4th of July weekend, which is not included in this.
yeah,
We had pretty much 250 players Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic number. July will, for the makeup. for
Yeah.
anything.
yeah. These are June numbers, so. Yeah, that was a big, I remember, big weekend, you bet. Okay, anything else on combined golf ops? My only note here was that it's, again, if you look at over year to year, net op is a little, about 23K better than it was last year. So if you can maintain that trend, I mean, there's gotta be, instead of negative here, there's gotta be a threshold, when golf reaches capacity, that, you won't see these numbers. It's gotta, plateau at some point, which is good. It's a money-making operation and it continues to do so.
And we are raising the rates a little bit each year too, so that would show up in the final figure. Even if we don't have any more players,
Well said, yeah,
we'll still
yeah, I forgot about that.
increase.
Did they, because there was a suggestion a couple of years ago that, the golf packages that go out, and Ocean Pines was quote unquote underpriced.
It was
Yeah.
underpriced and if you go back far enough, we weren't collecting some of it too.
Oh, I remember,
So,
I remember that. There was a,
little
yeah,
problem.
Beckelman came in and actually reclaimed a good portion of that money that wasn't being collected.
So that's a good thing. And also, if you compare our course to say the other bigger courses around, we got Sound, One Point, so forth, they're charging way more than what we are. Almost double for rounds in the summertime outside play.
Yeah.
So Beckelman's plan is to increase our costs, our charge there, and also membership rates are basically going to go up $100 a year for the next couple of 3 years for individual families. So that'll continue.
Good to know.
That's the plan. Inside information.
Personal budget?
Yeah. And then put some more in the piggy bank.
Yeah, a little bit more in there.
I can afford $100
What's
for that.
wrong?
That's not a big deal. Okay, Frank, thank you for the insight there. Anything else on combined golf ops? Okay. Yeah, Jack?
No. Like I
Don?
say, done a great job.
Don, you still good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, next item, beach parking. You mentioned earlier, don't know for sure, but you know, my note is it's down 30K from last year. Is that a concern? Is that something that we should be, I guess,
That's what I thought.
looking at, you know, kind of reviewing and, you know, or is that? I don't know, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Jack, to your point, you know, I believe there's, if you count the parking spaces across the street at the Seaport
Exactly.
parking lot,
No,
I
yeah,
think we're closer to 300
300, yeah,
as a.
yeah. I know they sell both sides.
Yeah. But, yeah, the question is that's an interesting thing. You know, what would cause it to go down?
It's a form of genius. I mean, the way they operate, and nobody complains about it. So it works. Whatever they're doing works.
Yeah. Just wondering if, you know.
And that goes back to 2016, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Amazing, I'm still alive.
I remember when you were on the board, Jack.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm just wondering if, you know, X amount of people, like, let's use the numbers you were looking, X amount of people sign up, say 2,200 people sign up, right? So that's, you know, that's just all out revenue, okay? And, you know, and they expect that, you know, certain times they're not gonna be able to get in the lot, they'll have to go across the street or, you know, whatever.
Right,
And now some people probably saw that and said, well, you know, I don't want to take a chance anymore. I'll go there. And so that 2,200 might only be 1,900 now. So, you know, now it's the same concept, but you know, some people are just going to go, maybe I'm not going to go there as much. I'll take my chances, you know, go there early and park, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what but there's clearly a cause there somewhere.
that's right.
Uh,
That's probably right.
I mean, it's still, again, a very high revenue generating entity, so I'm not really too concerned about that. Anything else on beach parking? Okay, marinas. Okay, well. Yeah, you know, again, just looking at the, you know, the whole entire net operating side of it, you know, we're, you know, 32K better, you know, 35K better, you know, than this time last year. You know, now did the, you know, fuel sales, you know, go up? Well, if you look at the monthly, you know, they budgeted 175 and, you know, 183, so almost, you know, a little over 8K, better. But again, nothing there. It's run along. And if you remember correctly, John Grola mentioned it in his GM report that last year they had a number of days that, you know, with small craft warnings and, you know, a number of circumstances that would sort of dissuade, you know, boaters from coming out that day, which obviously affected the fuel sales and so on and so forth. And you know, this year weather looks like it's a little bit better and fuel sales are up. I would fully expect that place to, you know, maintain a good, you know, good financial, you know, approach to things. So, anything else on marinas? Okay. Next item is the reserves.
Before we get into the reserve, one of the questions I had,
Jack.
how are they booking that rent roll from Taste of Italy? Is that what they call it?
Touchability.
Well, that was close. Touchability, you know.
How, say again.
How are they booking the rent that they receive from Dutch of Italy and any other, what's it, an override or something like that? They get some sort of a override based on
You talk about,
sales.
you talk about 6% of food sales. Yeah. I'll ask.
Where do they, in other words,
We don't get a
in
food-
the past,
Yeah.
we would
It's
go
on-
through these
Yeah, excuse me, it's on page 4.
categories. Beg pardon?
It's on page 4, food and beverage. Last month, it was roughly about 47,000. This month is showing $54,813, under budget by 3971. but there's no expense associated with it.
Oh, there we go, yeah. Yeah, well, we were gonna get to your, you and Bob submitted questions, about, as a follow-up to that, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Food and beverage.
Okay.
Yeah, so the reason I hesitated is that, if you're looking, assuming that the algorithm they're using is, under month budget, which is, 58.7, that's, if you do the math, is that 12 months or 10 months divided by, or 12 months divided by whatever it is, 384 for the year. So they cut it into 12s. But then, why would there be a variance? In other words, if they're paying the same amount of money every month, then this variance has to obviously include the 6% worth of food sales, right? So they're using it as a combined number. The fixed number of X amount of dollars per month for the lease, and the variable number being, 6% of the food sales.
Right.
So that's how I would see it. That's why I didn't really raise the question, but. So anything else while we're talking about food and beverage, anything else? Does that make any sense or questions?
So where did those numbers come from? I wonder, who was giving us that information? Oh, that just came through the,
Don.
It's
Don
on page,
Bonfide.
oh, okay, well, I didn't, I don't know how all this stuff works, but,
Is the D
where's the,
squared.
I mean, where are we gonna be able to see it? Where is it going to be?
According to,
Where did he get his information?
well, it's right there. This is,
Show me.
yeah, right there. Line, go to page 4. Okay.
Page what?
Net operating by department.
Oh, page,
Okay.
all the way
Right.
back at the summary
Yeah.
level. Oh,
Net operating by department. If you look at the last line, is food and beverage.
okay.
All right. So that's where it's being reported. We just don't have a specific breakdown in it, which is fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody all right with that?
Yeah, I mean, because it tells the story here on this line, so if, now the only thing that, I should have asked and I didn't, and I'll ask John, is that when they did the budget, when they were looking at their revenue, did they include monies associated with the 6% of the food sales? Or did they just put it in as, well, it's gonna be 384,000 a year divided by 12, that's our budget number, okay? And then anything else, so I don't know, I have to go back and look, quite frankly, I'd have to go back and look at the budget and say, hey, is that budget number under food and beverage inclusive of any additional monies over and above the lease payments, So that's another one to follow up on. Matter of fact, I'll make a note on that.
No separate yacht club reported.
On anything, food and beverage for, the beach club, the yacht club, and the clubhouse. Okay, all right, I made a note. All right, let's get back down to, reserves. Any questions on our current status of, reserve funding? In my note, no issues with early fiscal year. As the planned capital purchases and replacement purchases, go through, we'll monitor that throughout the year. But right now with 9.06 million in the reserve fund, I think we're targeted. I should know this off the top of my head, but we're targeted to have like 6.1 or something like that at the end of the fiscal year. I think it's 6. I was sent Robert's Rules of Order. Monica, do you have that number?
It is 6.1.
6.1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Robert's Rules reinstated. Anything else under the reserve summary? Okay, next item, capital summary. Capital expenses. Questions there?
I have one.
All right, Don, please.
Yeah, last month, one of the questions regarding bocce, and Bob had another question he emailed out, but they said it was under recreation. Down at the bottom, it's showing recreation bocce ball court 25,346, but then under yacht club bocce ball court 4251. Why? And I went back in time going into last year. There has been two different line items, one for rec and one for yacht club. Why is that the case?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. I noticed that,
Or does that have something to do with?
yeah, 42, all right, so the question would be, what was the $4,200 expense associated with the yacht club for a bocce court? You know, versus, you know, the 25K expense under rec and parks. So in other words, why are they split apart?
Yeah.
There's obviously a reason for it, so we'll add that to our list of questions.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else under capital summary, capital expenses?
Significant variance on roads, year to date actually. But
Yeah, they were 112, and we actually noted that last month. Here's the. I thought he answered it in one of these. Yeah. No, that was the, okay, don't have anything on that. Let's add that. You know, what caused the, I'm sure it's, you know, some planned road work that they had, or maybe they needed emergency road work, don't know, but let's get an answer to that one. Okay. Anything else on the capital summary report? All right. Next item is the cash investments. It's pretty straightforward. That our treasurer will also report on this on Saturday's board meeting. Nothing new comes out. Go ahead.
The thing that really I'm curious about, you know, with 19 million is 17 million, well, 16 to 17 million is a fair piece of change, and I wonder if we are getting the maximum yield on that cash. If there is some other, I know this is highly liquid and the risk level is extremely low as long as, you know, these banks remain solvent. Which, you know, Bank of Ocean City, Taylor Bank, Dynamite Banks. I'm wondering if there's something else that we should be looking at down the road. Even if they're federal securities, you know? 2 year, I guess the 2 years probably about 3.6, 3.7, and then the 5 year is a little bit higher than that. So you got to get into the 10 year before you get into the 4s. And I don't know that the banks are that competitive with those kind of rates. I just maybe it might benefit the folks if we also indicated the yield on this stuff. Not necessarily the dollar amount, but the percentage average yield.
Never said Robert's rules.
On the, in other words, Bank of Ocean City, they got CDRs at 12 months. Maturing 1025, I assume, $1.1 million, just roughly $1.1 million. Wonder what the yield on that is. In other
Yeah.
words, it's a 12-month CD. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And then the others are 6-month CDs. What's the yield on that? And, I understand what management is doing, keeping those funds liquid, because you never know what's gonna come up and bite you. You know,
Yeah,
I understand that. But that is 2, 4, 5, 2, that's about 7, 8 million out of 17 million.
yeah.
So just
My-
curious.
So, we do report on the monthly income from our interest rates. And our rates are very competitive compared to what they offer to us, if you will.
What they offer what?
To Joe Public, you know, if I walk in and
Oh,
say,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, I'm sure. No, I don't doubt that. I'm talking about, short-term government bond, 2-year bonds, 5-year bonds. You know, are we really gonna need, something like 7 to $10 million over the next 5 years? Over the next 2 years, for that matter? Are we really gonna need that? If we've got $7 million in liquidity, real quick money.
Mhm.
And that leaves you a balance of 10 million that you might be able to invest safely, but in a higher yielding.
then, you know, John.
It's just something,
Steve
it's just
looking
something,
at.
yeah, I mean, maybe even John should put a committee together to take a look at that. You know, have you headed up, after you get reelected, have you headed up? And, you know, just look at what the possibilities are out there. I mean, does that make any sense?
Yeah, the concept is sound. Here's one of the things that I would kind of, I don't want to say caution against, but we got another reserve study coming, okay? And I know John's very concerned about what's going to come out of that reserve study.
Yeah.
So personally, I wouldn't recommend doing anything to change our current environment until we understand what the requirements might be to the association based on that reserve study. Okay, I wouldn't want to tie up even $3 million in a long-term investment vehicle, you know, if in order to meet some, you know, some legal requirement that we had to make certain changes and certain updates or do
Now,
whatever. So,
Okay, so if the reserve study is done and it's determined that we need to put aside higher amounts of money into the reserve account,
that might be the catalyst for looking at longer term, higher yield investments. All right, so my personal, and I would, hopefully the committee would agree, that I would wait until that reserve study is
that's
done.
not a
Right.
bad approach.
Before we kind of really looked at that and said, you know, can we get,
Right.
you know, additional monies over a longer period of time? You know, the time value of money changes, obviously, but, you
Well,
know,
that's why you're the chairman and I'm just a member.
It's true. No, but.
But
and that's my
that
point.
is, yeah, that's very true. I mean, you hit it on the head. That's,
Yeah,
that's right.
And
That's
the
exactly
study's
right.
coming up, you know. It'll start-
November,
Yeah,
November.
maybe October, but by November, it'll
Okay,
be,
so,
Yeah.
so.
And it may not even be necessary, and it may be something that management doesn't want to do, which I don't, it's just looking at possibilities, that's all. You know, I'm not suggesting we take any action at all, but just look at possibilities.
Okay, all right, Randy.
My own personal experience, recent experience is that, shorter term rates better right now than the longer term rates. It doesn't make any sense, but that's
Right.
what's going on right now.
Well, hence another kind of, you know, impetus for us to say, yeah, maybe we should be doing a study, just, you know, or ask John to take a look at it at a cursory level, and if we feel it needs to be more detailed, then we suggest putting together a task force or something like that, or, you know, a small committee to just say, hey, let's take a look at this real quick. And maybe the finance team can do it without anybody else's intervention either, so.
Right.
You know, I mean, because a couple of years ago, we changed banks, we went from one bank to, remember, we did business with a Union Bank.
Union.
You know, just to kind of diversify a little bit. Now, We've got, Taylor and Bank of Ocean City.
Right.
Would a third bank be advantageous? I don't know. Steve Phillips and Mark Swift and John obviously would be kind of better suited to lead those,
Right.
those discussions and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna reinstate Robert's rules. So anything else on the cash investments side of it? I like the idea, but like I said, maybe we'll let's go ahead and agree that we'll wait until after the reserve study. And then we'll kind of look at that and say, does any of this make sense? Especially Randy, if if the trend that you've noticed
I looked at-
remains that way.
No, I looked at 9, 12, 18. And the 9 and 12 were better
Interesting.
than the 18 and 24.
Interesting. Yeah, and I guess the other part of it, I don't want to get too much into what the analysis would be. It's like, as you tie up money longer and longer, what's your risk profile? At that point, it's like, well, what happens? Okay, I can't touch this money for another 6 months, would I have to change anything operationally? Again, it's a discussion for another time, but that's certainly something to consider. Okay, anything else on the investment side of it? All right, next final page there is our membership report. Anything on there? We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the racket sports, it kind of shows up right there, but, again, you look at, so you have kind of two views of this data, but at the end of the day, going back up to the operation summary by department, we're not that far off. If you only look at this, you might think, oh, wow, we're really way down. But if you look at the year to date, compared to last year's year to date, we're still, close. Is it lower? Yes, it's lower. Is it alarmingly lower? I don't know. What's your threshold? $12 or $12,000? So the idea would be, again, I think we're in agreement that we'll just keep an eye on this and see how it gestates over the next several months, and then in preparation for making recommendations to the board, to the GM based on, recommendations for the next budget and going from there. Anything else on the membership report? Okay. So next item on the agenda is a report of questions answered from the finance team. There's two emails that you all have, and at the risk of spending a lot of time just, reading through this, we've got them, and I think it was Bob's suggestion, and I think we all agree it was a very good one, and as in our minutes for the meeting, we would put these answers in rather than spending time just spewing this out over the meeting. So for those watching and, for the record, we received responses from the May meeting questions and the June meeting questions. Okay. And as stated, we will ensure that they are included in the meeting minutes from, for this meeting. That way they can always be referenced. Okay. One other item is you saw all of Bob's questions. Bob Hilliard had a number of questions that he did. I think that was very good. I'm going to assume that the committee will agree, and I'll take these questions forward as part of our packet that we send over to the finance department for questions out of our meetings and ask for a response. Any issues with that?
I agree with them. Did have a racket sports question, whether you want to defer that for later.
Well, no, I would not defer later. I would, because we want to continually monitor it. So the idea would be, I would send this going forward. All right. But he brought up some very good points here, and he's got that. So I am going to include that. And then also, Don, to your question, we're going to forward the message that you and Bob shared. I actually sent that to John already. I know he's been tied up with a number of things, So I'll just remind him that, you know, we'd like a response on that one as well. All right. So Don, thank you for those inputs. Next item on the agenda is general committee member comments. We'll go around the room. Randy,
And
Frank, Don,
No, I'm good.
Jack.
No, I'm up to speed.
Okay, I have one general comment. As you guys know, we've had an application submitted for committee membership. And then, you know, I've sent a message around to everybody that said, hey, you know, we want to do an interview. And Jack stepped up and said, well, and I think it's rather than a bunch of interviews, a single, you know, joint interview will be the same thing. It's just simple questions, so on and so forth. I sent an email to that individual on Monday, waiting for a response because we'll just try to schedule the meeting, and we decided to do it in person. I don't know. Jack admitted that maybe the online aspect of it could be.
Well, okay,
could be,
well, if it is online, I'm gonna be confused.
So
No, I know this is convenient, but I'm afraid I'm old school. I mean, this is the way, like Mr. Brown over there, this is the way we used to, run meetings.
Yeah.
And I would get an idea of where he's coming from, and he would get an idea that I didn't know what I was talking about. And it was a healthy exchange.
Yeah.
But
no, it's
I understand,
yeah.
it probably is convenient.
so again, we'll
But
just,
you interviewed me personally.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a better way to do things.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll work on coordinating the schedule there, and then we'll go from there. The objective, well, there's no board meeting in August.
Right.
So the target would be to get it on the agenda at the September meeting.
Right. You haven't set a date yet.
No, waiting to hear back from the individual,
Okay.
for her availability, and
And you got my note about my operation.
yeah, it's September 11th. So I would have it closed out well before that.
Okay.
Because again, the objective would be to get the approval on the September board meeting agenda.
Okay.
So any other questions, any other concerns? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay.